he reached out to me. He pitched me his mastermind. I was like, so no, I don't have that much money. I would never invest that kind of money. But then as the year went by, I tried to do it on my own. And then I realized I was missing things. I didn't know what I was doing, right? All I knew was the States, like what they were teaching in the States. But I seen his students getting results. Hey, I just closed a 20K, 30K, 40K deal.
Right.
And I'm like, they're getting results. Like they're at the same place. There's something that they know that I don't know. So I reached out to them. They said, yeah, you got to be on the other side. Like simple as that. Like,
right. All right. Well, Jeffrey or Jeff, I'm going to call you Jeff.
Jeff. Yeah,
Jeff, we're live, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing amazing. Very happy to be here and looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah. Awesome. So am I. Thanks for making the trek. Hamilton?
Hamilton, yeah.
Yeah.
About 2 hours. Not bad. Not a bad drive.
Yeah. How's the traffic coming in?
It wasn't bad. Once you get into that Toronto, in Toronto, there's a little bit of traffic, but overall, it was a good drive. Nice. We see the sun today, so
yeah, I know. It feels so good to see the sun during the winter. Because so many times where like a week, 2 weeks goes by, and you get no sun.
I think I seen on the news there has been over a month that we didn't see the sun during like December to January, so that was pretty brutal, but.
Yeah.
Happy is back out.
Yeah. Talking about traffic, I went to an event last year. I probably shared the story already, but I'm going to share it anyways again with you. And I was trying to get there, but I wasn't able to leave until like around 3:30 in the afternoon. And my wife goes, "Are you going to take the 407?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm going to take the 401." She said, "Take the 401. Why are you taking the 401 for?" And I'm like, you know what? On my way to Niagara, I'm going to pass where I used to work at TD Bank. And I wanna see the building, number one, and then number two, I want to remember why I left. I want to remind myself of sitting in traffic. It took me 4 hours to get to Niagara. Now, from my place, it's like typically like just over an hour and a half or whatever. It took me 4 hours, and there was so much road rage. But you know what though? I had the list of people that I wanted to call. I had my podcast that I wanted to listen to. But it was a good reminder of being able to take control of your life if you decide to, So anyways, I just wanted to share that story because I thought, my wife thought it was crazy, but it was a good reminder.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. I passed by my old insurance that I used to work at.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I drive by it and I see it, I remember the same thing, right? I'm like, man, I used to work there. Like I used to be in the same situation, right? So
yeah,
it's good to remind yourself, right, where you come from and where you are now, right? So
yeah, because you know what, when you're going through this entrepreneurial life and building a business, there's some shitty days. There's some days where it's like, why am I doing what I'm doing? You know what I mean? So it's a good reminder. But listen, I want to kind of jump into things here. There are three things that I want to really kind of touch on today with you. So one is just kind of like your upbringing, growing up in Colombia, what that was like, family life, and then leaving like your full-time job. Like I just want to kind of know a little bit about your past. Then we'll jump into like multifamily investing, why you went into that particular arena, that space, and the economy. Everybody wants to know about the economy. And then the third thing, maybe more like along your mindset and what does your day look like, and how do you make it through a rough day and the challenges that you're able to overcome. So, Colombia. Tell me about Colombia. It was a great show that I watched, and I wanted my wife to watch it. I'll go back and watch it. Was Pablo Escobar.
Oh, Pablo Escobar.
Oh, so
Netflix?
good. Netflix. It was such a great series. But what was it like growing up in Colombia?
No, they did. Yeah, as for your conversation, yeah, they did a good job with the podcast. And it's crazy. I when I left Colombia, I never would have thought people would want to go to Colombia. And all of a sudden, like now I'm at meetups and I talk to people. They're like, yeah, I just came from Colombia. I got my spot in Colombia. I was 3 months in Colombia, and to me, it's just like surreal. I never in my life would have thought people are now going back to Colombia to live there for months. Like the Canadians, Americans, Europeans.
Why?
It's the lifestyle, cost of living, Medellin specifically, right? So it's just become really popular. Netflix, all these shows have made it really so people want to go and see what it's about. They go, they experience it. They're like, man, this is not what I thought. This is like, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's people outside. The weather's good. The cost of living, the food, the music, just the lifestyle, I would say more than anything. But yeah, growing up in Colombia, yeah. So I, born and raised in Colombia, Bogota, the capital. And growing up, had, hard upbringing, grew up in a tough side of Colombia, specifically Bogota. There's a lot of crime. My uncles, got killed. So it's I grew up in that kind of environment. Yeah, my uncles got killed, and so I grew up in a rough environment. My mom then left Colombia to go to the U.S. to pursue that American dream. So she left when I was about 5 years old. So I didn't see her again until I was about 9 years old. And I don't think I've ever told the story. So I didn't see her again for 4 years. So I was in Colombia with my aunt at the time. And it was hard, it was hard. Growing up, no mom, no dad, basically you're kind of on your own other than, my aunt at the time. And, just wanted to make it, I just kind of taking it one day at a time. And then finally got the opportunity to come to Canada when I was about 9 years old.
Okay.
So yeah, I got the opportunity to come here, was very grateful. Even to today, I'm very grateful to be here. Canada's an amazing country, land of opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Was your father around?
He was with my mom at the time, but then as we grew up, he kind of went his own way, and I pretty much grew up without a father for the most part. I still go to Colombia, visit him, when I'm down there. But yeah, so for the most part, it's just my mom. My mom kind of raising myself, and I got 2 sisters and 1 brother.
Yeah.
So 3 kids essentially.
And your brother's here with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And your 2 sisters?
Yeah, they're also here as well. Yeah, they they're in their field. One of them is a nurse. The other one is a PSW.
Okay.
So growing up, it wasn't easy, right? So I do value what we have here and the opportunities and. Just the freedom that we have here, right? Like back, even Bogota right now, even where I'm from, like it's very dangerous. You can't really pull out your phone. You can't have, necklaces around you. Like you have to really be careful when you're down there. So
there's just a lot of corruption there, like within the government.
Oh yeah. Okay. Funny enough, the president currently in Colombia used to be a big, it's called guerrillas, which is like the military, but the bad side of the military. So they kidnap, kill people. He used to be one of the leaders for a group called M19 or something. So they were like kidnap people, and he's now the president of Colombia. So
really,
yeah, it's right. Pretty bad. So
okay, which is what Pablo was eventually trying to get to as well too.
That's exactly right. And but this guy's made it to the power, so he's a president. So Colombia, in a way, me like personally investing in Colombia, I'm not really as bullish because of the presidency. I don't think it's you got to really be careful. And even when I talk to people around there, but yeah, I grew up in Colombia. So then we came here. My mom then raised us in Hamilton specifically. So I first city I ever came to was Hamilton. Grew up in Hamilton. Grew up single mom, 3 kids, kind of working double jobs, cleaning jobs, all types of things. So growing up, I always wanted to make something out of it. Like I always felt like I was different than most kids in my age. But in high school, I was actually playing basketball. I was telling you earlier. So I played basketball all the way from like grade 7 all the way up to like grade 12. And I had the privilege to actually play basketball with some players that are now in the NBA.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it was phenomenal to be part of a team, to be, learn leadership, learn teamwork, learn how hard work and determination, can help you achieve your goals essentially, right? So I had a strong mentor during that time, which was my coach.
Yeah. Listen, I think that's so important, especially working, when I go back and look at my upbringing and I played soccer and being on a team, okay. The importance of playing on a team, the understanding losing and winning and hard work, grit, determination, failure, coming back up, going back down, the mindset of it all. It's so important to be a part of a collective group and learning the challenges and also the rewards that come with that. It's so important. I think all kids should be in some form of activity or some form of sports when they're younger.
I agree. And especially when you said mindset, right? Like when I was growing up, basketball, really gave me a strong mindset. You're going to fail every day. You lose games, you lose tournaments, you lose championships, right? But you get back up, you're back in the lab, Monday, and you're going at it again, right? Trying again. So I feel like that's needed in this world, with a lot of soft people.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% for sure. Because if you haven't gone through those hard times or those difficult moments in your life, and it finally hits you, you're like, this is not fair. Or this is like I wasn't expecting this to ever happen, because you were protected. But you need those knockdowns and to get back up and to rise back up. It's it's about getting back up.
And no, you nailed it right on it. And I think school has a lot to do with that, because in school, they teach you if you fail tests, you're considered dumb. You're not smart, right? Whereas in business and in real life, you fail every day, and you just got to get back up. You got to talk to your team. Also in school, you can't use your team as you versus the test in that case, right? Which in the business world, you get a task. You're going to talk to your team. You're going to put things together. Hey, what do we have to do? Get different ideas, get different perspectives. So I feel like school in a way does that for you, where you don't want to fail. You're afraid of failing. You don't want to fail because you're the dumb guy, right? So
Right.
I think in business world, it's all about teamwork. It's all about failing. It's grit, commitment. So I think sports can help you in that sense for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I say this all the time. You win or you learn. And last year, I learned a lot.
I think a lot of us did, honestly. I think nobody could have predicted what happened, right? I'm sure there's some people that might have predicted it, but for the most part, everybody just riding that wave, right? So
yeah, for sure. Okay, so cool. So you got into basketball. So then, what else kind of helped cultivate who you are today and your upbringing? And, what about money and finances? Did your mom teach you that stuff?
Yeah, no, great question. I guess one of the things I want to say is, I'm a Christian man, right? So I do have a lot of, respect, love for God. God's one of my number one cores in my personal life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, growing up, my mom,
thanks for saying that too. I think a lot of people are almost sometimes scared to say that nowadays. It's a very interesting thing, but I was brought up the same way as well too, in a Christian home. Went to church every Sunday. Didn't matter, even if I was sick or my mom was sick or somebody would come pick me up. But it was like every Sunday I was there, and it's good. It's good to have that in your life.
No, it's
some form of religion,
yes,
I think, or some form of aspiration to something bigger than you.
Yes, no, I couldn't agree with you more, and especially in today's environment, right? Like it's, God is not really talked about as much. A lot of people are atheists. They don't have a belief, and for men, women as well, but for men specifically, you need that higher purpose. You need that, the creator essentially, right? But yeah, no, as per your question earlier, yeah, my mom, no, she didn't really teach me much about finances because she didn't know how finances herself. And I tell her even till today, like, I don't blame you because you didn't know that, you were just trying to survive, with, in her mind, she's just trying to survive, trying to get us out of Colombia, right? Out of like where we could have ended up, right? So for her, it was just trying to make it. And even when we got to Canada, she was just, so I guess she did teach me things, maybe not financially, but more like hard work, determination, responsibility, right? So she taught me those things. When it came to the business and money wise, right after high school, so once I finished high school, I tried a bunch of different things. I tried to become a firefighter. I tried to go to school for construction engineer, because that was the thing, right? You finish school, you finish high school, now you have to go to college, university, get a degree. That was at least my mindset behind it. My mom didn't know any better. Nobody knew any better. So after that, I actually became, I tried all that, failed, went to work for a bit. And then I went to school to become an insurance broker, because I heard that they get paid good money. There's a lot of jobs after you graduate. So I went to Mohawk in Hamilton to become an insurance broker. At the same time, I met my now wife, who at the time was my girlfriend. And then right after I graduated from insurance at Mohawk College, I was dating her, and then she got pregnant with her first kid.
How old?
So how old was I?
Yeah,
I was 21.
Okay, that was around my age too. 22 when I had my son.
21, 22. It's a young age.
You grew up real quick.
You have to, right? So for me, that was like the aha moment, right? Where like I started my insurance career, but at the same time, I also became a father. So for me, it was just kind of very locked in. I was like, I try to make money for my kid, and then,
so you weren't really ever in the 9-to-5 world. You were really you got right into the entrepreneur world and straight commission, right? Like, was that a straight commission role? Or job?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess from high school all the way to when I found my first insurance job, I was working like, Metro. I worked at Valley Village. When I met my wife, I was actually working at Valley Village.
Okay.
So people would come in, dump the stuff, I'd grab it. So I did work the 9-to-5 for quite a bit, and even insurance in the beginning, I did like customer service, and then I transitioned to like 100% commission job, which was not easy, right? Like everybody knows.
So at 21?
At 21,
okay.
Yeah, 21, maybe 22. I transitioned to full-time insurance. I was selling insurance, and I seen the power of like not working for salary, but like making your own money from the value that you can bring to the marketplace. So I did insurance for like the next 3 years. 3 years or so. And then I grew my portfolio of insurance. I was selling home and auto, and I grew my portfolio from 0 to 3 million, a book of business in the insurance industry, right? Which is great. I was like, I love selling. I love talking to people. I love solving problems, but I just didn't really enjoy the product I was selling, right? I was selling insurance. Nobody likes insurance unless you have to put a claim or you have to get it, right? But it's not like a fun topic. But I realized I like selling. I like business. I like entrepreneurship. So that's kind of what led me to find real estate.
Okay. So you got into real. So why real estate? What got you into it?
Yeah, and I tell the story because it's very true. I had no idea you could be a real estate investor. I had no idea that was a path. I didn't know that was a career. What ended up happening was as my kid was kind of getting a little older, we turned 1 or 2. I started realizing that I didn't want to pass this insurance thing to him, right? Because it wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it. So then I said, okay, well, what can I pass on to him? And I started researching. I looked into Amazon FBA, stocks, right? I never liked stocks because I could never understand them, and I knew that you have to study like the companies and all that. But I just felt like I had no control.
Okay, got it. So it was more of like succession planning.
Yes.
You're like, okay, what's my legacy? What am I going to be leaving behind? That my son, or if you have any other kid, you have any other kids?
I got 2 kids.
Yeah, okay. That you can leave for your kids.
That was really it. Yeah, and then just like, again, I didn't know you could be a real estate investor. And then I was just scrolling through Instagram, and then this guy from the States popped up, and he said, make money with real estate, no credit, no license, no nothing. And this was actually from the guy from the States.
That's always the one that captures you, right? It's like no money down, no credit, right? You can live in a gutter.
Exactly. No, exactly.
I
thought it was a scam. Like I was like, this is a scam 100%, but let me just see what he's talking about in case it's not, right? So I was like, maybe it's not a scam. I looked into it. At the same time, it was funny enough, one of my friends referred me over to Rich Dad Poor Dad, like every real estate investor, right? And once I read that, it was game over. I was like, what in the world? Like everything I've learned to that point was like just completely dismissed, right? Because I was like, I'm working for money. I have no assets, liabilities. Your house is not an asset. Like the whole concept.
Isn't that such a mind blower? What do you mean my home is not an asset? I was talking about this not too long ago. I talk about it all the time. It's just like when you hear that, I think it really opens your eyes to saying, hold on a second, what is this guy saying, and why have I been lied to for so long? It's interesting.
Yeah. No, it is. And somebody mentioned this the other day that Rich Dad Poor Dad is actually not a real estate book. It's an accountant book. Right? Because it shows you sort of an asset liability, right? Like balance sheet, right? Which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, once I read that book, I was like hooked, right? I'm like trying to get anything I can in real estate, investing, this, that. At that time, I tried wholesaling because wholesaling seemed to be the easiest room to entry for real estate.
Right. Low entry point, right?
Yeah, right? Like, hey, find the deal, find the buyer, right? In the States had a lot of content around that, but in Canada, there wasn't a whole lot. At this time, there was coaches, obviously, but I didn't know any of them until a guy named Irfan Khan. He's an investor. He reached out to me. He said, "Hey, I see what you're doing."
Yeah, okay, I know him.
Yeah. So he reached out to me. He said, "Hey, I like what you're doing." In the beginning of the year, so that was 2020, beginning of the year, he reached out to me. He pitched me his mastermind. I was like, no, I don't have that much money. I would never invest that kind of money. But then as the year went by, I tried to do it on my own, and then I realized I was missing things. I didn't know what I was doing. Right, all I knew was the States, like what they were teaching in the States. But I seen his students getting results. Hey, I just closed a 20K, 30K, 40K deal.
Right.
And I'm like, they're getting results. Like they're at the same place. There's something that they know that I don't know. So I reached out to them. They said, yeah, you got to be on the other side. Like simple as that. Like,
right. Okay, so cool. So let's kind of switch gears and let's kind of dig deep into, the real estate investing journey that you now embark on. And then also, I want to dive into the multifamily space because I think that's where you really are excelling at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I mean, just kind of right after that, the coaching with Irfan, it led me to our first year we did about 35 wholesale deals our first year with myself and my brother and business partner. Right. And
what was it like though, giving over that check? I'm sure it was a big check in the beginning.
Oh, it was scary. It was scary. I drove over and it's funny. Like I guess I didn't tell this part of the story, but during that time, I didn't have the money in my bank account. But I used my wife's line of credit. She let me use the line of credit because I'm like, hey, I really want to join this. I don't know how to do it. I don't have the money. She said, use my line of credit. I used her line of credit, and it was scary, right? It was like do or die kind of thing, right? Like if I don't make it with this, then I'm going to lose the money. I have to work to get it. But if it works, what could it be? What will life be, right?
Yeah, you're gambling on yourself.
Yeah.
Or gambling or investing in yourself.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, it was scary. It was scary. I remember I even have a picture of the check because I just remember wanting to see it every day when I woke up, what I had just got myself into. But no, it was honestly the best decision I could have made, right? That's what led to all the success and everything. And, until today, I still get mentors and coaches because I so highly believe in them. Like I see what they're able to help you accomplish. But yeah, so that led us to start picking up some properties, right? Our first year, then wholesale, we picked up some duplexes, right? Start off with the duplex. Did that for until we scaled up to 10 units. And then I realized this is a lot of every time I close on this deal, it takes me so long, all these fees, you know. So I didn't really like that side of things. And then at the same time, during that time, I met a buddy of mine named Frank, and he introduced me to Alfonso, you know, the Godfather, right?
Yeah.
And
I actually just sat down with him not too long ago to do a little podcast. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Full of energy.
Phenomenal, honestly.
Yeah.
And so he introduced me to Alfonso and his whole, Wealth Genius mastermind. And that just like opened up my mind to like what's really possible, right? Raising capital, building a brand, underwriting.
So up until then, were you raising any capital to acquire those? Was it 10 units altogether or 10 buildings?
Yeah, so it was mainly,
smaller,
yeah,
like
it was,
single family homes?
Yeah, mainly duplexes. And at the time, I had done one JV, right, where we brought a JV, he brought the capital. But other than that, we were just using our own money to buy these properties, right? Because wholesaling kind of, give us quite a bit of capital to play with. We would buy it, do the whole burst strategy, right? Buy it, renovate it, rent it, refinance it, pull it out.
So you're recycling your money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until we got to a point where, the banks were like, yeah, we're not lending it to you guys any more money, right? And then, so we started bringing some JV partners to acquire some of them, did well with those projects, right? Like we bought it at the right price, had a good team. And I think that's really important when you get into real estate, having a good team, good contractors, people you believe in and people who believe in you. So that's what led us. So multifamily, learned everything I could about multifamily with Alfonso and the whole Well Genius community. And honestly, just being part of that community, being part of a community that supports you, that are doing big things, right? That are doing 30 units, 40 units, 100 units. I was like, it's possible.
Yeah. So let's break that down. For somebody who's listening to this, maybe they're at that point where you were before you got into the multifamily space. Walk us through that multifamily purchase. Like how do you get started setting up the GP and the LP? You obviously decided to go into the US. Walk us through that process. We'll talk about this for the next 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll dissect the states a little bit more because and here we haven't really done GPs, LPs, more being like JVs, even with the with buildings that we've bought here. So a bit more JV. They bring some capital. The whole structure. I mean, it all goes down to there's different roles, right? There's the capital raiser, somebody who can raise capital. Keep in mind, you can't just raise capital. You have to also do asset management or some sort of other task in the group. But what I really like about multifamily is that it's a team sport, right? You find out what you're good at, right? Me, I love talking. I love communicating. I love creating relationships. I love talking about what I do. So in that case, broker relations, creating relations with brokers is a good thing to do, as well as raise equity, right? Because you're talking to people. But if you're analytical, right? If you love numbers, you love spreadsheets, then the underwriting is going to be something that you're going to want to focus and put your time in. And usually engineers, people that are doing, consistently working with numbers are good for that. And then you have your asset management, right? So they're usually boots on the ground in the market that you're investing in. And then you have the person that found the deal / they also, you might need somebody to qualify for the loan if the loan is like $20-30 million. So that's kind of the team behind it.
So you're saying 3, preferably 4?
I'd say even five.
Okay.
5 people, because even raising capital is not easy. So sometimes you have multiple people raising the equity and asset management.
Okay, got it. So you get that set up. Now, GP, LP, what's the difference?
No. So what we use with the multifamily in the States is we use the syndication model, right? With the syndication model, it allows you to pool money together from limited partners, right? And then you're able to, the GP team is able to, execute on the business plan.
Okay.
Right. And the great thing with the GP LP model is that the LP partners are really passive investors, like true passive investors.
And those are the people that you generally would be raising the funds from.
That's exactly.
Got it. And then now the GP, which would be you and into 3 or 4 other individuals, are going to be the ones that's now going to go into the US and purchase these buildings.
Correct. And for the most part, a lot of our partners, at least in the States, have been American, right? Just because they're boots on the ground, they have, relationship with brokers already. And usually we have already in-house property management because that's a huge thing in the States as well. And especially on the larger assets.
Okay.
So, working with, and that's something I want to talk about, it definitely is working with good operators, working with people that have a track record, working with people that have done this. It's not their first rodeo.
Right.
So that's kind of the structure for that.
Yep. So you find a building.
Yep.
Okay, what building and where and why?
Yeah, great question. So we typically really like South Carolina, Charleston specifically, and then Savannah, Georgia. But we also like, Charlotte, North Carolina, Raleigh, Winston-Salem. Like that North Carolina, we really like it. a couple of reasons for that, right? Landlord friendly, which is huge. We also really study the market before we get into it. So we typically won't do anything that doesn't have over 100,000 people in a population growth, right? So we typically like to see at least 1% growth year over year. If the population is declining, we typically stay away from that market. But the main thing is jobs. Right, we want to make sure that it's a place that has jobs because this is our tenants that are going to be employed, and we want to make sure that it has a lot of jobs, low crime, low vacancy rate.
So fundamentals,
Yeah.
So going through the fundamentals,
Yes.
what are you kind of getting price per door in those markets? They probably obviously differ.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So it depends on the asset class, but we're typically like 140, 150 a unit, give or take, right? So it just really depends on the market, the class, the type of property that you're going after. If you're going B class, C class, D class, A class.
And that just really means the type of tenant profile. Were you talking about the class?
Yeah, tenant profile and the asset class, right? What year was it built, right? And then the location, right? The location, the amenities. So, A class would be like something brand new, all the amenities, all the bells and whistles, right? B class, you're talking about 80, sometimes 1990s to 2000s, and then C class is typically, 1970, 1980s kind of built.
Yeah.
Right?
So, and what class are you typically in?
So we are typically in C and B class. So what we really like to find is a B class, a C class asset in a B class location, right? Because that means that we can take it to a B class if we do the proper business plan.
Right.
B class as well, B minus, take it to a B plus, right? We tend to stay away right now from A class just because it's tough to add value to something that is brand new, right?
Right. So that's also really what you're looking for is value add.
Yes.
Okay. So value add, looking to turn over some of these units. I assume it's probably a little bit easier in the U.S. to turn these units over than as it is Ontario. All right.
That is a big thing. And keep in mind, we do have, what we do is we build strategic partnerships, right? So we have a strategic partnership in the States with our GP operators and our team. And then we also, although we're not overly buying here, we do have a strategic partnership with Adrian Pinoso. I think you've had him on the podcast as well, where we essentially just partner up. We said, okay, we don't want to recreate the wheel in Ontario. We just don't, right? To be completely honest, I just don't want to recreate the wheel. Let me align myself with somebody who has the infrastructure to be able to take on a property in Ontario, a building in Ontario. So we do buy in Ontario as well, specifically Hamilton and the Niagara region, but we work with Adrian on that side of things because we don't want to recreate that. We rather just kind of bring the deal, put some things together, and then have our focus in the States.
Got it. Okay. Now, with everything that's kind of happening in the economy, and prior to interest rates rising as fast as they did, what type of an LTV were you in before? And are you changing that moving into the future to make sure that you got like a buffer, you're not, you've got enough funds?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, and loan to values back then were like about 80% loan to value, right? A lot of people were doing bridge financing, right? But what we're seeing now, it's anywhere from 65 to 70% loan to value, even at sometimes 50% loan to value.
That's what you're doing because you more comfort level, or that's what you're only being able to get approved for because of the situation that we're in right now in the economy? Yeah.
Great question. So that's what we're seeing in terms of lenders. That's what they'll go up to. Now, our most recent deal that we did, it was a 70% loan to value, but it was an assumable loan. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're seeing that's working really well right now is buying assets that have an assumable loan. And like this one specifically had like 4% interest fixed for the next 10 years. Okay. Right. So right away you mitigate the risk of interest rates, right? So that's what we're seeing. Those are the deals that are penciling out. Other than that, it's very hard to make a deal work right now with the interest
and break
rate.
down a assumable loan just in case somebody's listening. They don't.
Yeah. So basically what happened is that the previous owner of this building had just refinanced a year before. So 2023, he had just refinanced. So he pulled out as much equity as he could, and then he put a fixed rate mortgage on that asset. In the States, I don't know if you know, but the mortgage amortization is a much more extended. They extended to like 50 years in some cases, right? So in this case, this mortgage was fixed 4% for the next 10 years. So we don't have to worry about interest rates.
That's good.
So that's kind of how our underwriting went based on that, right? And so that's what we're seeing that's working well right now. Anything that has assumable debt, a low interest, fixed.
Right. Yeah, there's so much more opportunities in the U.S. I guess this is like a larger country. It's just got different rules, regulations in each of these different states, and it seems more fair, more balanced. the more I look at it.
No, you nailed it right on. Like, like I said, our business model is value add, right? If you're a value add investor in trying to implement that business plan in Ontario, it's very difficult, right? Especially as you know, with some of the news that's been coming out, right? You see, I see it in the news, the landlord from Toronto, where she was trying to kick out a tenant, or she sold her house. The buyer that was buying it wanted vacancy on the unit.
Yeah, it's such a mess.
And so I think they offer 75K. But when I look at that, and I'm like, every tenant is watching this, right? Like all these tenants in Hamilton, I agree, they're watching. They're saying, okay,
so it's 75. Okay, 100 now. 100. Let's do 125.
Exactly. So I don't think that benefits anybody, and I don't see what the rent control benefits. Again, I don't see what they benefit, right? Because if you think about it as a landlord, you're coming in, you're trying to make this place so much better. You're pumping money for the down payment, closing costs, renovating it. But then if you're not able to turn over units, then you can't execute on that business plan. So that's the big thing with the States. In my eyes, the States is scale. That's why I look at scale, right? Like you want to scale, you want to build a huge business with thousands and thousands of units. That's kind of where you want to go. And here is just slower.
Right. Okay. What else are you looking at when you're looking at a building? And also, what's your exit strategy? Are you looking to hold these things forever, or do you exit in a few years?
Yeah. So typically we're usually selling at the 3 to 5 year mark. Usually we sell it. But I mean, if we're able to refinance, me and my partners, we are like long-term investors in the States. So we typically want to see if we can refinance. If there's an opportunity to refinance, the market is good, interest rates are low, it allows us to pull. What we typically want to do is we want to return 80% of investors' capital. If we can return 80%, we'll refinance it. If not, then we typically will sell it. It just depends on the specific property. But yeah, what are we looking for? We're looking for low vacancy. Sometimes we'll buy something at a 90% occupancy, but we're looking for good marketplace, good jobs, low crime, good unit mix, right? So we want to have a lot of 2-bedroom, 3 bedrooms. We don't want to buy something with just bachelor or 1-bedroom units, because those are the ones that turn over the most. And we're just looking for strong marketplaces, right? Like we want to see Starbucks nearby. We want to see, we want to see Costco nearby. We want to see all these big retails around it, because that means that they study the markets really well. So when you see them or 3-4 Starbucks around your property, that's a good sign. Right.
Okay. Listen, I think what you're doing makes a lot of sense. And where do you see it going from here? He's going to continue to grow in the U.S. And are you building additional businesses around what you're currently doing right now?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, our business model is like in Ontario, buy as much as we can with our partnership with Adrian Generational Wealth. In the States, we got some kind of bigger goals out there. Like our personal goal, like business goal with myself and my business partner brother, is to get to $1 billion in assets under management in the next 10 years. So that's it's a big goal, right? But I've came across, I've interviewed, we have a podcast as well, operators that have done that. They have done that in 5 years. They have done it in 4 years, right? So I'm giving myself an extra 5 years of buffer.
All right. So you want to scale this, you want to grow this thing, you want to get to something big. My question is this. I think we've all seen and heard that obviously a lot of larger, we'll say, investment companies, investors have been hit. And a lot of people have lost money, whether it be through first mortgage, second mortgages, right, in the private space, or promissory notes. How do you ensure that you're protecting your investors or even yourself as well too, moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, is just finding, keeping the fundamentals of real estate, right? I think, like for me personally, I know what you're referring to. I think they had a lot of single family houses from what I've read, and what we're doing, we're just buying good quality assets, right? Simple debt, right? That's one way we can mitigate the interest rates, right? Buying a lot of assets in one location, right? Because if you have 20, 30 tenants leaving, you're still 70% occupied, right? Which obviously we don't want to get there, but having a lot of units in one place, and then most important than anything, I think, is having control over your business plan. Going back to Ontario, right? You get into a situation like that where now you have all this and you can't turn over units.
Right.
That to me makes all the difference in the world. So in the States, being able to turn over units, being able to execute your business plan. And for me, what I'm really trying to build, I think in the near future, is a strong operations, right? I think if you're going to go at scale, like what we're trying to do, you got to have strong operations. So one of the guys that I follow is one of my mentors, and hopefully we can work with him. He's a big operator in the States. And what he did is he bought a bunch of property management companies in the very beginning. I think he scaled it up to 1,000 units or something like that in property management. Then you're then able to raise capital and execute on that business plan. So that's kind of the model that I see. I think build the right foundation to then be able to execute the business plan is huge. Not just relying on a third party in property management is kind of what's going to separate us from everybody else.
Good. Yeah, I like that. Well said. Operations is incredibly important. I was part of operations when I used to work at TD Bank when it came to incident management, problem management, change management. Those are like three main moving components in your business because there's always some type of a problem. And when that problem happens, how are you then resolving it? And have you made proper notes? And have you put proper procedures in so that to ensure that it doesn't happen again? And then are you making more changes because then those changes create another incident? And then that incident now then becomes a problem. And then you're doing problem resolution. And it's just it's a repeatable cycle. But if you're not managing all that properly, then all you're doing is fighting fires all day because then you don't get to that problem resolution. You don't get to what was the root cause and how do we not make this happen ever again? Such an important, I think, part of my life, working and going through that in a large organization to see them how they executed it at a high level.
Yes, absolutely. So, and you often hear people, hey, I close on this deal, close on this deal, close on this deal, but not often do you hear the operations. Hey, we stabilize this asset, we turn over this unit, we did this, right? Because that's really where the bread and butter is with value add. But I just wanted to touch base on the question you asked me earlier, if I'm creating any businesses around that. And something that we recently started doing, because last year we were doing a lot of meetups, we hosted a lot of events, webinars. I've come to realize that a lot of people that were coming to events that were interested in real estate wanted to get into the game, or maybe they didn't have the capital to invest in the States, but they didn't have like proper income coming in from like a business. So that's where we realized there's a gap in the marketplace for what we do, which is, or something that we started doing recently, which is showing investors, whether they're new or even a little later in their business, how to find off market deals. I feel like there's a sweet spot of finding off market deals. If you're starting out, I mean, if you can bring the deal, you can find the money. Like I'm sure you've heard that. But just finding the deal and being able to pick and choose what you want to do. You want to flip it, you want to burn it, you want to wholesale it. Just having the ability to be able to do multiple things from that one deal. So we just started a program where we're teaching investors, showing them the exact strategies that we do. Because what I'm seeing this year, specifically in Canada, is, as you know, there's $350 billion worth of mortgage renewals that are happening this year.
Yeah,
there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain.
There is, for sure.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build an army of people that are trained. They know exactly how to look for deals, how to find these deals, how to negotiate these deals, and really go after as many deals as possible. Again, they can wholesale it, burr it, do whatever, but the deal, I feel like it's a huge thing, especially in this environment that we're going into. All right,
awesome. Good for you. I'm going to continue to keep watching you because that's amazing. You've got some great ideas, it looks like, and you got this huge growth potential that you obviously have in mind. And you touched on something that I think that's really important as well too, is that, if you bring the deal, then the money will come. But more importantly, I think it's more of a Stefan Arne thing. If you've got the deal and you have the people, then the money will definitely come, right?
Yes.
So yeah, Money People Deal, Stefan Arne. If you have it's one of my favorites. I've read that thing like twice because that's what really allowed me to grow and scale my portfolio as well too.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was a good friend of mine as well. I had him on a couple podcasts, and he used to come out and do webinars for us. This is when he kind of first started,
right.
And listen, man, he was he said what was on his mind.
Yes.
And I respect anybody that listen, you don't always agree with everything that everybody says, but I respect the fact that people say what they believe, as long as it's not hurting or harming anybody else, and he was a legend in what he did. But listen, last thing, and then we'll wrap it up. I want to learn more about your mindset. You obviously give us a little bit of a glimpse of what you're trying to grow and building a large army of people that can, change other people's lives. What does that day look like for you, and how do you kind of get out of bed, and what is it that keeps you going?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you may know, I got 2 kids, I got a family, right? So that's in a way that's my why. That's kind of why I'm trying to push, because I'm trying to be the best version of myself. Mm-hmm. One of my mentors, Alfonso, has always said that it's not so much about the goal or where you're trying to get, but it's the person that you become along the way. And that always stuck to me, right? Because, as much as I have these goals, it's not so much the goals, but it's the person that I can become on my way to the goals and how much people I can help along the journey. So that's kind of my mindset on why I'm trying to do what I'm doing. I'm trying to be the best version of myself, not only for myself, but for my family, for my peers, for my friends, my my employees that I'll have at some point, right? So that's kind of the why. But yeah, in terms of my mindset, I do meditate. I have a Christian meditation that I do in the morning. It usually keeps me nice and sharp, because so often you're so caught up on the past or the future, right? But it's sometimes that meditation, for me personally, it just helps me get into today. Like, I'm focused on today, focus on now, and then it just kind of puts you in a place where everything slows down, right? And you can really just appreciate the little things and then still be focused on doing other things. So meditation for me is good.
So
it's
important.
Huge,
so
huge,
important.
Huge. I didn't believe in it. Because I was like, oh, that's just some bogus, no, that's not really real.
Yeah.
And then when I started doing it, I'm like, man, this is some powerful stuff. Like, not enough people talk about it, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think people think that, okay, well, like, what's the art of meditation? Listen, there's so many different ways, like for me, one of the things that I like doing, I love doing yoga. And it allows me just to turn this device off. Nobody can get a hold of me. And I'm trying to put my body in positions that I'm not good at. And so it really kind of clears my mind, just being in the present moment and allowing me to, get that breathing going and focus on the breath and not worrying about the problems.
Yes.
Because
they're always in your head.
The only problem I'm trying to figure out is, how do I bend my back over here so that my hand can touch my baby toe?
No, I love that. No, and the same thing, and I also work out. Like, I think that's huge for me. I guess I didn't touch on this, but my very first mentor after my coach was, at that time, me and my wife were trying to get, become more physical active. We hired a coach that was a physical coach, right? So he, we track our macros. So we track how much, protein, fat, carbs we eat. And that to me was very huge, right? It taught me discipline. It taught me like all the importance of how important your body is. Like, if you don't have a strong body, or if you don't have the right physique, forget everything else, in my opinion, right? Like, physique is huge. So meditation, physique, God, family, that's all that's really important to me. That's what I chase. Yeah. And I mean, as per your point, you don't have good days. Sometimes you don't have good days. For me, I have some hard days. I come home, and then when I see my kids and they hug me and, they greet me at the door, I forget about everything else. Like, I forgot what I was even stressing about, right? So for me, my family keeps me at peace.
That's good, man. Yeah. Body, mind, soul. Yeah. Yeah, you hit all three of them. I think it's really important. Can anybody become a leader? And do you think you were born a leader?
Wow, that's a really good question. Can anybody become a leader? Yes, yes. However, I feel like you have to have, and again, I go back to this, but I feel like you would have to have some sort of mentor, coach to teach you how to do that if you don't already have it inside of you. I don't think I had it inside of me until, I kind of worked on my mindset. Again, I always felt like I was different than everybody else. I don't know if that was good or bad, but I come to realize now later on that it's good. I have always trying to get uncomfortable. For me, I'm always trying to find the uncomfortable. When I'm uncomfortable, I'm like, I'm not growing. What's going on, right? And I always try to put myself in an uncomfortable position. Can anybody be a leader? Yes. And then what was the follow-up question to that? And
do you think you were born a leader?
Do I think I was born a leader? Yes, I would say so. Yeah, I would say I was born a leader. Even when I was younger, and my mom, I would always try to, like, whenever we go to a trip, I'd always have the passports. I'd always had that in me. Like, I was trying to take care of my mom, my family. And I always, like, anytime that somebody has a problem, I'm always like, okay, let's find out the solution. Let's, like, that kind of reverse engineer, and just like, okay, there's always a solution for a problem, right? So I think so. I was born a leader, but thank God for kind of showing me, because obviously leadership is something you're always learning. And I read a lot of books, right? Trying to be better myself, right? Trying to always learn from people like Stefan Arnio, David Goggins. I'm a big David Goggins fan, right?
So, if you want to get your ass in gear, he'll get you there.
Yeah, so
you loser.
I read all his books. I'm when I'm working out, I listen to that as well. Just kind of always working on the mindset. The mindset is a muscle, so you should always be working on it.
I agree. What's your superpower?
What's my superpower? Man, you're hitting me with some questions.
Yeah. What's
my superpower? I like giving, honestly. Like I want to say that's my superpower. Maybe I'm not there yet, but I really enjoy giving. Like even with the mentorship that I mentioned to you earlier, I really enjoy helping people. Like it gives me fulfillment. It gives me fulfillment to be able to help people, to be able to change people's lives in a positive way. I want to say the power of giving. When we're buying buildings, we're given shelter, right? We're given a better, cleaner place for people to live. We're given opportunities to investors to invest with us, right? So I feel like I would say given. I could say that's my superpower, given and given without expecting anything in return. I think that's
it's in the Bible as well too, right? Give and you shall receive. It's not receive and then give. It's right. It's give.
Yeah, and then again, not expect anything, right? So a lot of people might give, but then they're like, "Oh, well, I expect you to do this because I did that for you." It's like, no, I give and I literally expect nothing. I think having expectations can sometimes be a downfall. If you don't expect anything, then you can't be disappointed.
Right. Yeah, I agree. That's so true. Your best and your worst day.
Best and the worst day. Okay. I would say. For my best day, I have two that I can think of that come to my mind.
Yep.
Would be the first one when my kids were born.
For sure.
That was like, I couldn't believe not me, but God created this, and now I'm the father of that. So that was a big one for me. And then the other one that I think of for the best day is when I came to Canada, like just coming to Canada, seeing my mom after I haven't seen her for 5 years, and seeing her again, and being in the country, and like I made it. Like a lot of people don't realize the privilege it is to be in this country, in America in general. So that would be my two things for the best days. My worst day. My worst day. I never thought about that. I never thought about that question. I'll have to get back to you on that. I can't think right now. The worst day.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Maybe when I was gonna say because my wife got her wallet stolen from our car last week, so I was gonna say that, but I don't think that.
Well, it's probably, but I mean, look, what is fresh is fresh on your mind, right? It probably upsets you the fact that somebody would, because it feels like a violation, right? Where somebody takes something from you that they don't own or deserve.
Maybe you know what? I got one that I can think right now when you said that. So when I was filming all the things for our course a couple years back, I was in Hamilton and I was filming. So I was staying there the weekend, filming all the stuff. And then I remember my wife texted me because back then we had just bought a property in Fort Erie, which I was house hacking at the time.
Yep.
So duplex, Fort Erie. She's there with my oldest, and then she was pregnant with our youngest, and she texted me saying somebody's trying to get into the door, right? And I'm all the way in Hamilton, right? It's like 12 a.m. at the time. She's like, somebody's trying to knock on the door. She's scared. She's going crazy, and she's like, I don't know what's going on. Like somebody's really trying to knock, get into the doors. It's dark, 12 a.m. And I remember like I just had like a heart attack. I felt like I couldn't do anything because I'm in Hamilton, right? So I just book it. Drove down to Fort Erie. I think I got there in like 35 minutes, which usually takes me about an hour. And I think that was probably one of my worst days in terms of like just that feeling of not being able to help. And like, I was like just thinking all types of things when I was driving down there. So yeah, that would be one of my worst days, I would say.
Yeah,
or worst moments, I guess.
Yeah. What's important about that is that you made it there in 35 minutes. But if it was a deal that I had ready to present to you, probably wouldn't have drove that fast. No. So it goes to show you what's more important in life, And I think that's really important to kind of break it down in that scenario, saying, it's life that's more important. It's your loved one that's more important. And remember why you're doing what you're doing. What are you doing it for? That's good. See, so that's why you took a little longer to figure that one out, but you hit it though. That was solid. That was good. I appreciate you sharing that. Let's kind of wrap things up.
Sure.
Any last piece of advice that you can share with our audience and my followers in regards to I don't know, how to live a good life, or how to change their life if they feel like they're not moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, so two things I can think of is the first one is just be grateful. You know what I mean? It's so easy to be grateful. You know, you can wake up and just be like, I'm grateful to have another day. That's typically how I wake up, right? I'm just grateful to have another day. Be grateful to be in this country. Be grateful to have walking legs. Some people can't even walk, right? So just be grateful for everything. Somebody once says you can't be fearful and grateful at the same time. So if you're fearing anything, just go back to a grateful mindset, a grateful feeling, and you'll forget about any fear that you've had. So be grateful. And then the other thing I would say is take action. Take action. I mean, I often talk to so many people, investors, people in general that are scared. They're scared to take that action. They're scared to invest. They're scared to do this, scared to do that, right? But I always like to say, what's the worst that can happen, right? Like, what's the worst that can happen? You lose some money. What's the worst that can happen, right? You lose some money on a coaching program or whatever, right? Like, don't be scared, because you will fail. And if you can't take that initial step, then you're never going to be able to be successful. So take action, and like you said, you fail. What do you say? You learn, you win, or you learn.
You win or you learn. That's it. There's no losing. There's only winning or learning.
I like that. I'm going to tell my kid that from now on.
All right. Jeff, listen, man, I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you sharing your story, your journey, and everything that you did. And congratulations on all the success that you've had so far. And we'll do this again. How can people learn more about you and get in contact with you if they want to do some work with you? Yeah,
no, Gary, honestly, just thank you for having me here. I know we've chatted before. I feel like every time we talk, we could talk for hours. So I always really enjoy that. And very impressed with what you got going on here.
Thank you.
Well, people don't reach out to me. We're very active on social media, Instagram. So my Instagram is official Jefferson Ortiz. Very active on Instagram, Facebook. Our website for a company for our investment properties, Ortiz, O-R-T-I-Z, or R-T-I-Z Equity Group. You can schedule a call with our team, learn a little bit about what we're doing. As you know, we're doing things in Canada and the US, but mainly focusing on the US. And yeah, I'm always just happy to share. Even if you just want to have a question, I'm happy to answer the question and give value with nothing in return.
Awesome. Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we'll do this again.
Cheers.
All right, brother.